Hi friends, in this week's video I want to share with you how to photograph your art. Now these tips that I've included can be applied to just about any kind of camera that you're working with. So if that is a cell phone, a tablet, a point and shoot, it doesn't matter if that's DSLR or mirrorless, these tips can certainly help you out. And if the camera that you're working with doesn't have all the functions that I go over, there's plenty more tips that can help you maximize the camera that you are using. If you're able to, there are some apps out there that you can also try downloading and installing on your camera if you're working with a tablet or a phone. That can help give you a little bit more control when it comes to photographing.
First, we'll talk about how to take a good photo, and then we'll talk about how to edit one that maybe isn't so great.
Because I think natural light is the easiest. I use that myself, even though I have a bunch of artificial lighting. It just always comes out the best, and there's a lot less to set up that way.
And don't forget, one of the simplest things you can do is start with a clean lens. You can do this inside or outside. The most important thing is indirect light. So I am going to set up a small table that is at least level with the window. If you were to go any lower than your window or doorway, you would cast some shadows on there. If you're doing this outside, just make sure that you are actually in shade. Unless it is an overcast day, then you can be out in the open. I recommend a neutral background. Even if you plan on cropping it tight to the art itself, you want a neutral background so it doesn't reflect any colored light. You could use white, gray, or black. My preferred is a matte white because it is very easy to work with. It keeps your picture nice and bright, and if it's matte, you don't have any shiny, glossy areas to worry about. If you're trying to take a photo like this, where you have decorative elements all around it, then you don't necessarily need a neutral background. You can use any background. Once you're set up, you'll need to set your camera perfectly parallel to your art and adjust to where you can fill the frame if possible, unless you are trying to include more of the background. It's important that your camera lens is parallel with the surface of your picture or you're going to get distortions. Like you can see in this photograph, the corners should be at right angles. So our goal is to get nice, even, flat lighting. And what you wear is also important. As you can see on the left side, the light is brighter than on the right side of the image. So what you can do is, if you have any extra white material, such as an extra poster board, you can hold that up to reflect some of that light back on to even it out. It might be a little bit subtle in this video, but you can still see the difference. And if you're wearing different colors, those colors can actually reflect back onto your image and cause some discrepancies in the accuracy. Many devices can give you pretty good results on their auto function, but knowing how to tweak your settings will give you much more control, especially when working in less than ideal environments. Now I'll show you what this looks like on the other side of the camera. This is a stock camera on my Android device. If you're using a smart device such as a phone or tablet, yours may look a little bit different. You may or may not have these settings, but you can download more camera apps for your given device. Okay, so let's say that your auto setting didn't give you the most accurate results and you want to go ahead and tweak some things. This button here tells me that I am in auto mode. You might have it underneath your settings, but we're going to go ahead and click on that and turn it to manual mode. From there, you'll get all these additional settings, and the first one we're going to mess with is the white balance, or the WB. That tells the camera what color temperature we're working in. Light tends to lean from blue to yellow, so slide this around until the picture looks like it does in real life. Next up is the ISO, or ISO, and that is the camera's sensitivity to light. So generally you want this as low as possible with the picture still looking good, and if you raise it up too high, it's going to decrease the quality of your photograph. So aim for as low as possible. We'll go with 100 for this example. And usually that's enough, but if you need a little bit more to bump it either lighter or darker, you can use exposure compensation. Now this is a sliding grid again, and I recommend not moving it past 1 or -1 either way. The farther you go, again, you're going to degrade the quality of your picture. And then there's assistive grid. Go into your settings and look for assistive grid and make sure that is turned on, and that'll give you an overlay on your view so that you can make sure your picture is lined up well.
And if you haven't done so already, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe down below. And if you're subscribing, don't forget to hit that little bell icon so that you get notified when those new videos come out. I would love to hear from you, so give me your feedback and your likes, or hopefully not dislikes, but I'll take them as well so that I know how I'm doing and I can make better content for you.
Using these tips, you should be able to yield some pretty satisfying results, but there's always a scenario where you actually need to do a little bit more tweaking. So let's talk about what to do if your picture is less than ideal and you still need to tweak it a little bit. Now this can be done in a variety of programs. One of the free ones that you can download is called Snapseed. I'm just going to use this stock interface that is on my iPad because the general settings will be about the same. So the things you'll want to adjust are very similar to the things that you were adjusting when you were taking the photograph, if that was available to you. So we'll go over here to the right, and exposure is definitely one of the things you'll want to consider tweaking a little bit. And this slider here, we can make it brighter or darker as necessary, and you'll want to go as far as possible to where it still looks good. Next up is brilliance, and they don't all have this setting. The names might be a little bit different, but don't be afraid to play with it. You can see just sliding it along how it changes things. Next, we'll go for the highlights. Those are going to be the brightest areas of your picture, and you can see how moving this will adjust it. It gets a lot darker. Whatever is going on, you want to make sure that you have the original piece of art nearby so that you can make it look as accurate as possible. You want it to shine. Next up, we'll do shadows. And that's very similar. Just play with it until it looks as close to reality as you can get it, and without it degrading the quality. Next up is contrast. Same thing, play with it to where it looks right. And brightness. The black point is also something I like to play with as well, because sometimes blacks don't come out quite as rich in photographs. Now the saturation, I feel like that's one that people tend to overdo, thinking that it looks really good, but it can get really weird looking really fast. So again, we're going for true to life, especially if you're using this photograph to sell your piece of art. You don't want to change things so much that it looks like a completely new piece, and then when they get it, they're going to be disappointed if you sell it because it looks nothing like what you're advertising. Vibrance, same thing. Use this one sparingly, if at all. We'll leave it around 0. I'm okay with that. Warmth, you don't really have to mess with that too much if you got the color temperature correct to begin with, but again, move it up and down, see if it helps. And same with tint and sharpness, I try to avoid. Now if you're taking pictures in bright light, you should be capturing a lot of that detail that way. So you won't have to go back and add extra sharpness that will look kind of abrasive if you do. So we'll just leave that off. And noise reduction, that's that grainy texture that sometimes you get in a low quality photo. So this one doesn't actually look too bad, so there's nothing so much to remove. The texture that you might be seeing on the picture itself is from the canvas. And I think I will leave that there. Vignette. Vignette is the darkening or lightening along the edges of a photo. So you can see here how it's getting darker. If you're looking for something to sell your piece, you may not want to do that. But again, these are all stylistic choices, so you could do whatever you like. I'm going to go a little bit lighter to brighten up some of the whites of that picture. And those are the simple ways to adjust your image if you're using a tablet or phone. If you were to take this photo into a proper editing software such as Photoshop or something free like GIMP, you could get a lot more detailed and play with your curves and tweak all sorts of things. But I try to go for simplicity, especially because I have to take so many photos with posting on my online shop and Etsy. I don't want to spend too much time, and if you're able to take a good photo in camera, that can save you a lot of time in general.
I hope you found these tips useful. I know my early pictures of my artwork were absolutely terrible, and they were for a really long time, which made it hard to sell, hard to represent the actual pictures, and definitely hard to make prints out of. So hopefully this was useful to you, and if there was anything that I overlooked or that you can think of, or even just another question, please mention that down in the comments below so that we can all benefit or give me some ideas for future videos. I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks guys, happy creating. I hope you all are staying safe, happy, and well during these crazy times, and I'll see you next time.